So here's my pair of Roobedo type cashmere mittens from a piece of recycled cashmere. You take your pattern, and this is a fold line, so you would draw around it and flip it, and then add, you know, if you want a little bit bigger, whatever, or length. So you can see this one, actually I've made it a little bit bigger because I want it to be slightly bigger ones. Make sure you're aware of where the stretch is. If you look at the line on the pattern, you can kind of see that line on the cashmere. There's a rib, a lined rib. The rib means you've got more stretch. So I'd recommend you put the rib running vertically so that you have nice stretch for wearing your mitten. When you're making the mitten, so you have the whole piece, you would fold it the right sides together. So the right side is the rib, right sides together. And then you want to sew to start with from the down the hand, halfway down the hand, round to the thumb. So you can make a little mark, this one on the pattern, gently, just you don't want to make too much of a mark through the cashmere. A little mark for where you start sewing. We're going to sew now centimetre seam around this curve to here and back tack. So just place it to your machine, try and get that needle right on top of that mark position. A little back tack, so a couple of stitches forwards and back, and then take your fabric and just make sure you go round and back tack at the end as well. You see that there? So I've gone from that dot round to here and I've back tacked. Second row, lift it up, and you want to close off this opening for the thumb neatly. So we're closing the edge. So we're pushing that seam out with our thumb and actually turning it in. And where we're going to stitch now is round the edge of the thumb hole to make it a nice finish. So we're not going to turn it in, we're just going to literally sew on the edge, a centimetre seam, back tack at the beginning. And as you're sewing, just with your finger, just try and keep that as even as possible and just catch the edge of the cashmere, which does roll a bit. So just take your time and back tack. So you can see there where I've stitched right on the edge, and then on the other side you've got your row of stitching. I'm doing a contrast stitch just for the video. That was a wee wobble. You can use the same colour, or you could use a nice contrast colour if you want. So that's us got our hand formed, the thumb hole formed. You can trim your threads at this point. And we want to close now the inside wrist. So I'm going to push my thumb hole together, and we want to sew down from the thumb hole, down the wrist, and just stop like we started lower down at the top. I'm going to stop shy of the end as well. So place it to your machine, back tack, and then we're going to make sure we've got our edges together, catching it evenly, come down the inside of the wrist and stop short, back tack. So we've got a gap here, a gap here. Then you want to turn your mitten the right way, and we want to close the gaps that we've left, but we're going to sew on the right side this time. So you can just check, pop your hand in just to see, you know, that you've got your thumb hole nicely stitched. We're going to close the wrist and the hand now. So when you take it off, line up your two top edges. You're going to sew down, same again, a centimetre seam, and we want to sew as far as this stitching is here, so down to where the stitching. We're going to start sewing from the top now down to where that last stitch was. So we'll place it on the machine, a little back tack, and down and back tack. And you can see there I've sewn to where that stitching was. And just trim your threads. And then the function, what I'm going to show you here, is you're going to roll it now to finish off the top edge. We're going to open up that seam. I'm going to roll it down about a centimetre and another centimetre, just so we cover up any of that that's showing. And we want to stitch in the ditch on top of that seam in there. So we'll place it to the machine, and I'm going to stitch in that little crevice like that. That's it stitched, secured. And then just go around to the other side of the hand, and where you think is the other side, do exactly the same. Just roll it down, roughly the same amount, and down again, So you have that lovely rolled top edge, and then you just want to sew through and back out. So that's the top edge of your mitten. You would repeat the same at the cuff, and that would be your mittens finished. Give them a nice press and they will stay nicely rolled, and that's your mitten.